By the 1st century CE, belief had already changed. It had become structured, exclusive, no longer tied to a single place. What hadn't changed yet was who it was for. At this stage, these beliefs still belonged to a specific group, a shared identity, history, and set of laws. But that begins to shift. The teachings associated with Jesus of Nazareth emerge within this environment. They do not introduce a new God, but build on the same foundation. They transform how belief is applied. The focus begins to move, no longer limited to those born into a specific lineage, but opened to those who choose to belong. This is where we see a growing inclusion of non-Jewish followers, known as the Gentiles. They are not required to fully adopt Jewish identity to participate in the movement. No longer tied to a single land, temple, or a sacred center, but able to exist wherever a group gathers. Far from Jerusalem, other religious communities begin to form in Antioch, Corinth, and even Rome itself. Then, in 70 CE, a decisive break. The Second Temple in Jerusalem is destroyed by Roman forces, the physical center of worship gone. The place where sacrifice, ritual, and identity converged is removed. For a belief system built around a sacred location, this should have been a collapse. But it wasn't, because the foundation has already begun to shift. Belief is no longer anchored to a single place. It no longer depends on one city or one physical location. Practices adapt. Gatherings move into homes. These teachings are preserved in writing. Authority becomes distributed across communities rather than centralized in one site. So the movement continues, not despite the loss of the temple, but, in some ways, because of it. What could have ended a localized tradition instead accelerates its transformation. A belief once tied to a place proves it can survive without one. In doing so, it becomes more capable of spreading. And even after the destruction of the Second Temple, the movement does not collapse. It adapts. What was once inherited law is reframed through shared belief and commitment. In many cases, full adherence to the laws of Moses is no longer required for inclusion. It also becomes more portable. A belief carried by individuals like Paul, traveling along Roman roads, moving from city to city across Asia Minor and beyond. A message preserved in letters copied, shared, and read aloud, creating consistency without central control. A structure capable of crossing languages, cultures, and borders without losing its core identity. Something infectious. In the decades that follow, small groups begin to form. At first, they are localized, often connected to existing communities, but the structure of the belief allows it to spread. It had been written and become repeatable as well as exclusive to the believers. Now it becomes transferable. People outside the original group begin to adopt it, not by inheritance, but by agreement. This marks a fundamental shift. Belief is no longer something you are born into, but expands into something you can choose to join. That change allows adaptability. These ideas travel along as the Roman world connects regions through roads, trade, and communication. Other communities emerge in different cities, carrying the same core message even across distance. There is still variation, still disagreement on exactly who or what this one God really is. But the structure of belief in an exclusive God holds, and because it holds, it grows. What began as a small group within a larger system becomes a movement capable of expanding beyond it. No longer tied to one place or one people, but capable of including anyone. This is the moment where belief becomes scalable. What comes next is this exclusive belief that can scale over time and distance, begins to overtake an empire and form one of its own.